AI is a tool, and it is only as good as the person using it. So we keep talking about all the things it can do. And she's like, at the end of the day, it can only be as good as the person using it. And the securities that you put in place and the prompts that you put in place, like that is the big piece of it that matters.
All right, KJ, welcome back. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of our She Leads Securely Mission Secure podcast conversation.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Melanie.
I have a fun question for you. What is something that people would be surprised to know about you? Make you think for a minute.
I mean, we could take this a few directions.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
We could take it a few directions. Something people would be surprised. I have a drum set in my basement. That's mine. And I taught myself when I was younger how to play, played at church and learned there and taught myself. It is something that is actually on my list to get back to 18 minutes a day because I used to be pretty decent at tapping out rhythms. It's something that I like to do for stress relief or just to get the focus back. So that would be something that not a lot of people know.
I love that. My dad and my brother
come over and they're like, "What's the drum set?" And my kids are like, "It's my mom's."
It's my mom's. That's probably not what they would expect. I relate to that because my dad and my brother were drummers. So we do have music in our family. I did not really pick up on that. I can play piano by ear. I have a piano in my house that I don't play, but I would love to get back to 18 minutes a day playing that piano.
Yes. Carve out that time. It's hard.
Yes, but it's there for a reason. Okay, let's talk about supply chain and vendor risk and cybersecurity. So because ProShip does sit between shippers and carriers, we're part of that link. We know the weakest link is where criminals tend to exploit, compromise, cause breaches. Vendor risk and vendor liability has become one of the biggest issues the NMFTA has identified that's facing our industry. Are you familiar with the NMFTA? Do you know who they are? Okay. So
it's more acronyms, right? But I'm familiar.
Gosh, you have no.
Feel free to explain. I think this is great. Another great education, right?
Yes.
Not the world I live in. So
it took me long enough just to be able to say NMFTA and have that roll off my lips the correct way. But they are what I would consider the premier cybersecurity organization within trucking and logistics. The work that they are doing to educate the industry, equip the industry, bring companies that are competitors, bring them together in a spirit of collaboration and cooperation to talk about how criminals are attacking companies today. How are they stealing freight? Freight fraud is an entire side of the asset side of it. Of course, the enterprise side is what I work on. I work on protecting the companies because cyber attacks still come through ransomware and business email compromise.
Yeah.
So I always say that if a vendor gets breached, companies often think, well, that's the vendor's problem. That's the vendor's responsibility. But honestly, it affects us all. When a vendor's breach is your downtime, if that vendor goes down, how does that affect your company and your operations? A vendor's exposure to a cyber attack is your liability because criminals are really good. You know what criminals know? Criminals know that to gain access to dozens or hundreds of companies, they only have to breach one vendor. Right. Because they can just move laterally into all those companies. So, what is your take on cybersecurity? What is your company's stance on security? And just, I don't know, talk to me a little bit about that. Do you guys, have cybersecurity in place? I'm sure you do. So talk to me a little bit about cyber. Yes.
We actually dealt with some stuff yesterday. It's funny you say that. We had some email tenant with our parent company that we needed to a sister company, I think, was doing some outbound email spamming or something happened. We'll just say an outbound email situation. So our parent company's IT team had to just, get right involved, shut some stuff down, make sure, PII and other information was good to go.
Mhm.
And we had to take a little break on sending anything external, which isn't great for business.
Ugh, it's not.
And I just gotten back from PTO. So this is like super fresh and
Oh boy.
needed to send out, like 80 emails yesterday, but that's okay. We needed to just, and people understand, right? So you need to
Yes.
sometimes just take a moment and let the thing get fixed. I think really with like ProShip or any tech company, it's making sure that any partner or vendor or tech partner, let's say tech partner, because we have tech partners for cloud hosting, we have tech partners for helping us with integrations, right? So as we look at a technology stack, we're going to have partners from A to Z within that stack. And as long as those vendors and those partners are, SOC compliant, they have contingencies in place for breaches, that's really what we look for, and ensure that we are bringing people on board that follow the same kind of practices that we do.
Right.
That's always been the mentality. Even at the 4PL I worked at before, did a really amazing job with compliance, as well as the national carrier I worked for. I just think you have to have that mindset of you bring people on board that follow suit with what you want to see, and then have an action plan if and when things go down. I think that's the biggest piece, and everyone's aware of what that looks like.
Yeah.
If it's a shutdown, if it's turning off different APIs, if it's turning off different carriers, there's different things that we can do to ensure that the information that flows through, our system is protected.
Absolutely. An incident response plan is
Mhm.
not necessarily a door that criminals walk through, but it is the key to closing a door that's been compromised. And I think
Yes,
I
great point.
always ask people, do you have an incident response plan? Raise your hand. Do you have an incident response plan? All right. Have you practiced it in the last year? Hands go down. All right. Have you practiced it in the last 6 months? Even more hands go down. So if you have an incident response plan that hasn't been practiced, you're not really prepared. You can't
Right.
prove that your plan works if you haven't practiced it. And that's not a cybersecurity issue or a technology issue. That is a leadership issue. It has to come from leadership down. If your incident response plan is sitting on a server that can also be encrypted along with everything else that the criminal gained access to, it's not going to do you a lot of good. Uh,
Right.
Also, if your incident response plan is a pile of paper sitting in a file cabinet gathering dust at the end of the hallway,
Or
that's
if it lives up here,
a
right? If it's tribal knowledge, which is something we say at ProShip sometimes, like we need to get things onto paper, get things in SOPs. If it lives up here or it lives in something tangible that other people don't have access to, how effective is that
right. It
as
can't
well?
it can't live in one person's head. An incident response plan has to be something that everyone knows who's in charge, who does what, when do they do it. And the time to figure that out is not when you're in the middle of a cyber attack. You don't
Correct.
you don't want to be asking, okay, wait, who isolates systems? Who makes that call? To your point earlier, who makes the call to shut down email or shut down a certain system or a part of a system?
Right.
Who if necessary, who engages forensics? And then at what point are you notifying your employees or notifying your customers? Those are all decisions that need to be made ahead of time. And a good incident response plan, as you said, doesn't live in someone's head. It's something that's practiced
Mhm.
annually. And I preach that all the time.
But it's interesting that you will be at a show or a conference or an education somewhere, and you'll ask for like the participants how long or how often or when was the last time you did this, was it within a year, 6 months, and the amount of hands that go down, that's telling. Is that pretty common? Do you see that where it just isn't put into practice and people tend to be more reactionary?
I sure do. People are,
Interesting.
first of all, they want to raise their hands when you ask the question, do you have an incident response plan? Oh, of course we have one. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it located? Did you practice it? Do you and your staff know who's in charge? It can't just be like you said in one person's head. So it's a really
Right.
telling question. It's part of the keynote that I'm delivering, Proof to Practice, this year. We do talk about the common doors that criminals walk through to gain access to companies. And then how do we close those? And having an incident
Right.
response plan, especially knowing how your system is structured. Is it segmented properly so that when a criminal gets in, because it's going to happen to all of us, we're all going to have a bad day, especially with the advent of AI. These attacks are coming so swiftly and with such sophistication that they're really hard to stop. But if you have your incident response plan, you can react quickly, because the
Right.
difference in recovering in 18 hours versus 18 months, say, is how quickly someone takes action. Who knows their assigned roles? How quickly did they take action? How quickly did they pick up the phone? How quickly did we mitigate that threat? How quickly did we isolate
Mhm.
it? And having your system properly segmented so that when a criminal gets in, they can only go so far. Think of it like your house. If you had a lock on every single door, if a criminal broke into a room, they could do damage in that room, but they couldn't go any further because all the doors were locked internally. And so we
Yeah.
do talk a lot about
Great analogy.
making sure your system is structured and segmented properly so that when a criminal gets in, they can only that blast radius is limited. It's more like a hiccup rather than like yesterday, a hiccup for you. You know, you had to slow down for a
Absolutely.
couple of hours, but it wasn't a major
Yeah.
disaster because you guys had
Right.
a plan in place, obviously.
Absolutely. That's very interesting. Thank you for embellishing on
Yeah. Yeah, no, I could talk about it forever. Let's go back to talking about the vendors and vetting them, because you started to hit on some really important points, knowing who your
that.
vendors are, knowing what their incident response plan is. If their
Mhm.
company goes down, how does that affect your business? How quickly do you get notified? Do they have someone that handles customer notifications? I just think the vetting process is such an
Yes.
important thing, whether you're talking about the, your asset vendors or your enterprise vendors, your software vendors, because we're all so interconnected, especially in logistics. We're so interconnected. And that weakest link really is, that's where the gap occurs. That's where criminals get in. So do you have any
Yes.
advice on vendor vetting?
I just think you hit on that so well. And the advice I would have would be to follow up not only on the compliance piece, right? Like we can sign all the documents we want and the lawyers can go through it back and forth and say who's responsible for where, who's liable, right? But I think that response plan is something that's hitting me a little bit differently. And you keep talking about that incident response plan. It's response timing. It's who does what when, if something happens. So my advice would be knowing that and having that path laid out after the fact. We can do all the pre-work, we can do all the SOC, we can do all the tech compliant, we can do all that pre-work, right? But when something happens, who is responsible for what, and what does that timing look like? What does that reaction time, that communication timeline, the response timeline look like after the fact? I think that's a little bit of a piece that it can be missing, especially because we feel like we're so covered on the front end. So the back end coverage, that's we need to be reactionary, but let's be reactionary with a plan. And what does that look like? Instead of, okay, we're going to do a tornado drill at school. Let's hope we never have to be there, right? Like,
Right.
hey, what does this drill look like in practice? And we have to have it in an accessible spot where everybody knows. Everyone that's involved in part of that plan knows how to access it. So I think a lot about the back end,
That's
not
right.
necessarily the front end. Yeah. I
Timing.
trust the experts to get the front end covered. So,
Yes. Timing is everything during a
timing.
cyber attack. And
Mhm.
having the incident response plan on the reaction side, everybody springs into action. We isolate, we contain, everybody knows what to do, when to do it, but also having that vendor vetting on the front end. I will say that the NMFTA has an entire vendor vetting framework built around that, because at the end of the day, your vendor's breach is your downtime and your
Absolutely.
vendor's compromise is your liability. So, using that framework, sending those questions to your vendors, knowing
Mhm.
what their process is, how quickly you get notified. Very, very important to be both proactive and reactive with that.
Yes. And if the framework is there, what's so nice about that too, and we utilize that, it's you don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to rewrite anything or recreate the wheel. The framework is there. Someone has done it for you. So
Absolutely.
then executing on that, on getting it out to your vendors and getting those responses back should not take that much
Yep.
time.
There's no
Yeah.
excuse because it's a great framework and it's already in place. Okay, I want to one of the things that we see often, one of the most common blind spots we find when we do our security risk assessments is software that's outdated, software that hasn't been patched. So I was doing a little research on ProShip, and I know you guys have a versionless architecture. Is that what it's called? Where
Mhm.
software
Mhm.
updates automatically? Do you wanna talk to me a little bit
Mhm.
about that?
Yeah, it's really neat. So with our versionless architecture and autonomous updates,
Okay.
we don't. So people like our customers that opt into that do not have to shut down systems, restart systems. It's really as simple as it sounds. It's automatic updates that get pushed from our team out to our customers. If they opt out of that, there will be, we notify them, and there is a point where they have to accept the update or restart the system. But having those automatic updates just really helps with keeping things secure at the
Yes.
end of the day,
Right.
secure, up to date. And then it's one less thing for our customers to think about, and then we keep control of that. So that's a unique thing for ProShip, which I really like.
I love that. That stood out to me immediately. Just my little security, spidey
Mhm.
senses were going off because so many times a criminal will get in because of an exploit with an outdated version of software,
Yeah.
and it takes
Yes.
an IT team time to install those patches and get them keep on top of when those patches come out. So I love the fact that you
Right.
guys have an automatic option.
Yep.
Okay, I have a leadership question for you. Um, can you think of a time that things went sideways, whether that's a software issue, a shipping disruption, a carrier failure? What do you do when the plan breaks? You kind of gave us an example about how you guys handled things yesterday, but can you think of, how from a leadership perspective when things go sideways, how do you handle that?
Yeah. I mean, we could go small and big here,
Okay.
right? Because I worked for a national carrier when COVID hit. And being part of the contingency planning. I was an international consultant at the time too.
Oh, wow.
So being a part of the contingency planning from a leadership seat on how we handled our customers during COVID and our partners in APAC and flights and capacity and new rules and regulations. That was a big thing I was a part of, big planning that I was a part of. Um, One of the pieces that I learned as a leader from that particular experience was like over communicate. And we
Mm.
are over communicating all hours of the day and night with every one of our partners around the world, to make sure that we were being safe and taking care of people, and what are the regulations that we need to follow. Um, that over communication was excessive. I was on calls at like 3, 4 in the morning
Oh,
sometimes,
wow.
and getting kind of things done and figured out, and just being part of the team that was helping, right?
Yeah.
But taking that idea and methodology of over communication to help even prevent things from going sideways, right?
Mhm.
Like just over communicating when things start to feel not quite right, and listening to your gut, and over communicating concerns or over communicating needs is a big deal too. So um, one of the I made the decision to leave a company that I was very sick. I was very happy with, loved the people. I didn't run from anything. I more went to something that was a different opportunity, I went to something, not ran from something. And making that decision was really hard. And it was didn't necessarily go sideways for me, but it was just that experience of making that decision, that it was hard. I was doubtful. What am I going to do? And over communicating with my friends, with my future employer, with my husband, over communicating so things don't go sideways. Am I doing the right thing? What does this look like and sound like? So again, I'll use that as a theme.
I love
Over communicate.
I love that over communicating. We work really hard on that. It's so appreciated when someone over communicates with me because it doesn't leave me wondering. I feel a lot of
Yeah.
times when I am left wondering, my mind goes to the worst case scenario. So having that communication in place, it
Mhm.
gives not only me the opportunity to ask questions, but you know, communication is in the hands of the communicator, right? So it's
Right.
incumbent upon us to have those conversations. I have monthly communication meetings scheduled with my clients just to touch base. We kind of review what's been going on that month, what the cyber threat landscape looks like, what our tools have been doing, what our team has been doing behind the scenes, because just because things are quiet on the surface doesn't mean there's not a ton of work being done below the surface. So I think
That's
that's
a great point.
yeah, I love that advice. Over communicate.
Over communicates. Yes. Too
Let's
much talk. It's a lot of talking. That's
You know what?
okay.
It is, especially if it's happening at 3 or 4 in the morning. That's going above
That
and
was an
beyond for sure.
adventure. That was an interesting part of my life for sure. But I'll piggyback off something you said that I like, and this is something we've started particularly for our resellers. I have a wonderful partner in crime at ProShip named Sandy, and we're doing the reseller program together. I've been taking it over, trying to revamp it, and one of the things that I'm doing is over communicating more internally in terms of processes and things we're changing, but then over communicating also with our reseller partners, and we've started different cadences and like approval processes, and it's really just around that theme of visibility and communication. I noticed that was missing, because that's something that hasn't always been looked at in the past, or these other programs that maybe haven't gotten the attention because they haven't had the right visibility or the right person to put something in place to see that come to fruition, or the right goals in place. So that's something that I've been like working really hard on around those themes of over communication. So hearing you say that about your customers, that validates like our decisions and how we're doing that moving forward too. So I'd love to see other people put that into practice.
Yes. So, and here's something exciting with AI. So much of that communication, those touch points, it can be automated.
Gotta love it.
And
Yeah.
so let's talk about AI. How are you guys using AI right now? We see so many companies
Mm-hmm.
using AI, vendors are using AI, but a lot of times it's like this shiny new object and everybody's rushing to implement it. And from the security side, I'm always concerned with making
Yep.
sure your AI readiness is in place before you
Yep.
get to the AI implementation side. You've got to use AI securely. And you've got to
Yes.
build security into every single piece of AI that you're using, because what nobody's talking about is what happens when AI lies, what happens when it hallucinates, what happens when it does something wrong, what happens to the risk that AI is now introducing to all of these
Mhm.
other wonderful things, the efficiencies and allowing us to do more with less and automating communications and making sure those touch points are in place. But talk to me about AI. What are you guys doing with it right now?
Oh, I love the AI conversation because it is everywhere. You cannot attend a show. You cannot go to a meeting. You cannot have a conversation with a partner without everyone talking about their AI strategy. And to your point, there's risk involved, and there's things that need to be considered. I'm going to quote my sister here for a second. She's absolutely brilliant. My sister's a vice president at a marketing company in Minnesota. They deal a lot with Target, and they've been doing a lot with AI. And we were talking about it over the holiday at our family cabin. And my sister she's like me. She's kind of blunt. And she goes, you know what? AI is a tool, and it is only as good as the person using it. So we keep talking about all the things it can do. And she's like, at the end of the day, it can only be as good as the person using it. And the securities that you put in place and the prompts that you put in place, like that is the big piece of it that matters. So I quote her because she said that and it was so simple. And I'm like, duh, that makes so
Brilliant.
much sense.
AI
It's a
is
tool and it's only as good as the person who uses it. Duh, that
Yeah.
makes, yeah.
I always say AI is my greatest thought partner, but it will never replace me as
Yeah.
the thought leader. I always
Oh,
have
I
to
like that.
evaluate. Yes, AI
Yeah.
is the thought partner, but humans are the thought leader. And the minute we step out of that leadership role is the minute AI starts to go south, the minute
Hmm.
risky things start to happen. And with my background in insurance, I talk a lot to my insurance agent friends. And right now, there's not really a place in insurance that covers that risk. And
Yeah.
so it's not covered under existing policies, and there's
Hmm.
not an AI liability standalone policy yet. I think it's coming, but as we use
It
AI,
has to be coming.
yes, because the
I
risk is there. The risk is
absolutely.
undeniable. But,
Yeah.
in the meantime, here's all these, vendors with all these nice shiny things that we wanna implement
Yeah.
that's gonna
We
make
got
our life
chat
easy.
functions. We got all this. We've seen partners and vendors do some really cool things with AI and us with AI where they're creating collaborative workspaces and being able to do like shared marketing resources using an AI agent creating it. And it's taking into consideration both brand requirements and legal logos, right? And case studies and all the things just to create and take away time or take less time creating shared go-to-market collateral, which is really cool. That's something that's a little bit newer that I've seen. We're utilizing it in terms of we have like our chat functions. We can use AI to help code again as a tool and as a partner with our engineers to help code. Which has been fantastic. Use it to create APIs, use it to connect differently with other carriers and vendors. There's a lot of things that you can do, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're utilizing the tool correctly, right?
Yes.
We have this in place. And I see more people, I think, I was also talking about this with my sister. It's just fresh, right? We're coming
Yeah.
off of this holiday, so it's just fresh. We see more and more in her industry and my industry. Yes, people are still diving in. Yes, it's the forefront of conversation. But I'm seeing people not necessarily back off a little bit, but they're adopting more of that crawl, walk, run methodology now. And so
Mhm.
they're bright and shiny and AI, and we've got AI and we're doing this. Yes, we have different things that have come to fruition, but we're not necessarily running a huge race to get there. We want to do it with purpose.
Right.
And I think that's a big deal too, is how do we be purposeful around AI and what we want it to do? So yeah, like I said, we're using it in a bunch of different areas at ProShip, but attacking it with purpose and with
Yes.
a plan.
I
That's
agree.
huge.
And using the principle of least privilege, just like a person at a company should only be given access to the areas of a system that they need to do their job and no more,
Mm-hmm.
we have to consider AI readiness and only give our AI. We need to know what areas of our system that AI is accessing and only give it areas access to that area and that data.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
has to operate under that, and that's where the AI readiness comes in. We can't just implement AI and execute AI. We have to do it securely.
Have you seen, going back to your theme of like the incident planning,
Uh-huh.
have you seen people come up with AI readiness planning or you know what I'm saying? Like, have you seen that
Not
in your
yet.
industry?
That's one of the conversations that we're having with all of our clients right now. It's how are you using AI?
Mm-hmm.
Who in your company is using AI? Do you know how your employees are using AI? Because I promise you, if we don't give them a secure version of AI to use, they're going to use whatever's on their phone or they're going to use whatever's on their computer at home and they're going to be using your company data on their personal versions of
Great.
AI. And
Yeah.
listen, it's the same qualities that make people such a good employee. You want to do more with less. You want to produce better quality work. You want to get your job done faster. But if you're doing that in an unsecure version of AI, you're actually putting the company at risk. You're putting company data out there that can be used to train models. And you don't want that. That's proprietary information. That's secret sauce. And even internally, if you are using a company version of AI, a secure version of it. We've seen companies give their internal AI complete access to their SharePoint, which includes all sort of sensitive data. So that means the receptionist who's using it to maybe craft an email can also ask it what's the president's salary and gain access to very sensitive information. You've got to implement your AI securely and use the principle of least privilege to give it access to areas of the system that it needs to do its job and no more.
Yeah. That's great feedback.
Interesting.
And
All
yeah,
right,
very interesting.
let's wrap things up here. What would you tell a woman just starting out in a male dominated industry? Do you have like one piece of advice that you might encourage someone with who's considering getting into an industry like ours that's not
Mhm.
typically filled with women?
Yeah. I'll go back to those who ask for more, get more. Make the ask. Make the asks. Get
Love
to the
it.
table and make the asks. Yep.
Love it. Ask and you shall receive. Be bold.
Mhm.
Be willing before you're completely ready.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, KJ, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time and for
Thank
joining me. I've
you.
thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel like I've met a new bestie and made a new friend.
I
So
know, I love that. That's kind of the theme, right?
yes,
We're all speaking with each other and doing these podcasts, and it's so lovely. And I just continue to be humbled after this award and how it has like expanded my network. And I'm meeting all of these just bad ass women, if I can say that,
yes,
just
yes, you
awesome
can.
chicks and badass leaders and women in the space. And I'm just, I continue to learn from all of you and be so grateful and humbled for just really for everything. So, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Tell our listeners if they want to get in touch with you, what is the best way that
Mhm.
they can connect with you or continue this conversation?
Oh, I love that. I'm definitely very active on LinkedIn, so I try to check my messages as often as possible. People can find me on LinkedIn and direct message me on there. That's just fine. People that I continue the conversation with, and we can exchange emails and things like that. But that's a really great place to start.
Okay. And is it KJ Swaggert or is it Katie Joe? What are you listed?
It'll say Katie Joe or
Okay.
KJ in quotes.
Okay.
Sweeters, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
We
great
got
place
it.
to start.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And
Thank
I'm just so thankful
you.
for all of our listeners tuning in. If you found value in this show, please like and subscribe, share it with an industry leader that you know needs to hear this conversation. Until next time.